Hi, this video is about Yoast SEO settings in WordPress. I'm Simon Kensington-Fellows, and in this short video I'm just going to take you through the optimum settings for Yoast. Now, before I go into that, Yoast is often thought of as a bit of a silver bullet. You kind of turn it on and magically it fixes your SEO. Well, that's not the case, unfortunately. What it does do is helps you to set your site up properly so that you stand a better chance of ranking, but it won't actually help you rank per se. So I'm just going to run through the main settings and then what you should do when you're optimizing a particular post. So when you install SEO or you get you get Yoast SEO on your blog, it will probably look like something like this. You'll see in the left hand column there is a tab that says SEO, and this is the main sort of page. So if you click on features, you'll see where you can sort of turn things on and off, and I'll explain briefly what these are. So SEO analysis just means, is it going to interrogate your post for what Yoast thinks are good SEO tips? So if you want to keep that on or off, that's fine, but just remember that this is an opinion based on the people behind Yoast as to what they think are the ranking factors that affect rank, not necessarily what actually affects rank. So you can turn those on or off as you please. Readability, I would leave that as off. Cornerstone content, unless you've got a really big blog and you're basing it around what's called a cornerstone content, which is one piece, which is the kind of the cornerstone of that particular topic on your blog, then I would just turn that off. For most people who've got a local business or whatever, that's not really relevant. And you don't need to worry about these text link counters. XML sitemap, you want to keep that on. That will generate a sitemap that you can then submit to your Google Search Console so that Google can quickly see what pages you've got on your site. Helps with indexing them quicker. Leave this right integration off. The admin bar, keep that on, it just makes it easier, and you can turn this off. And then if you've made any changes, just click the save button. So that's the features. If you're wanting to set up verification for your Google Search Console, for example, then you can get your Google Search Console verification code, pop it in there, save the changes, and that will help to verify it, or you can do it via a script in the header, whichever one you want to do. The other areas down here we'll just run through. So search appearance, this is where we want to come in and set things up at the beginning. Okay, so this is getting you're setting up your defaults, if you like, so you can pretty much leave those as they are. Now, schema is another topic for another video, so you can just leave that as it is for now. Content types, this is where you want to be making some changes. So do you want your posts to show up in search results? Yes. Do you want the date snippet? No. Do you want to show the meta box? Yes. And then this is the default SEO title. I'd leave this as it is, because on each individual post you'll go in and you'll optimize that yourself. If you just leave these as default, it's going to be pretty rubbish for your overall SEO. So you just want to leave it as it is, but make sure when you're optimizing each post, you go in there and you make a title that is relevant for your post and the keywords that you want to rank for. And again here, just leave this blank because you're going to want to do that at the post level. And then click on pages, drop down here. Now we want our pages to show up in search, so we say yes to that and then no for the other ones. And again, we'll keep the title here, but we'll go in and optimize the individual pages themselves. Now, depending if you've got other custom posts types in here, will depend on whether or not these show up. But generally speaking, depending on what your custom posts are, you may or may not want them indexed. So you'll need to take advice on that. Then when you save those changes, you want to go to media. This is important because this is going to be how it's going to treat all the images on your site. So you want to redirect the attachment back to the URL itself for the image. So you want to keep that on yes, that's the default. Now these are the important things. Do you want your categories to show up in search? I've got it set to no. I've got a small blog. I don't want categories showing up. I want to rank the pages. So I'm going to say no to that. And then for tags, do I want all my tags being indexed? Generally speaking, no. That's not very good for SEO. So you want to make sure that your tags say no to that. And then formats, again, these are dependent on how your WordPress site is set up. So generally speaking, keep that to disabled. And then do I want these to show up in search? No. So I'm going to book review topic. I don't want them to show up in search. Review topics, no, I don't want those showing up. These ones, no. Review topics, no. Again, these will depend on the custom post that you've got set up in your WordPress theme. And then we can save that. So basically I've turned off indexing the categories and the tag archives. So now we can go to the archives here, author archives. I don't want a list of my authors. There's only one of me on the blog, and I don't want the author pages showing up in search, so I'm going to say disabled to that. The date archives, again, this isn't a news site, so I'm not really interested in the dates being relevant to my site, so I'm going to say disabled because I don't want an archive with loads of dates full of my duplicate posts in there. Special pages, just keep those as they are. If you want to amend these yourselves, then you're more than welcome to do that, and then save those changes. And then breadcrumbs, I usually leave it enabled, and then you don't need to worry about RSS. So that's the general settings for your Yoast plugin. So essentially what we've done there is we've made sure that we're indexing our posts and pages because we want them to show up in Google. We're making sure that the media isn't creating duplicate copies. Our taxonomies, we're making sure that we are not indexing our tags and our category pages and things like that. We're making sure that our date archives and author archives aren't being indexed either. This will make sure that your site is lean and that the only pages in the Google index are the ones that you want to be there, your posts and your pages, so it's not being wasted with lots of pages of WordPress crud, if you like. So that's pretty much it. You can go through and in your social you can add in your social profiles here if you want. But what we're going to do now is actually just go to a post, and I'll just quickly run through the things that you can look at the SEO post. Now when you're looking at Yoast, you'll see at the bottom here we've got this Yoast SEO box. So there's two areas. There's the SEO, which is your on page, and then there's the social side of things, and this is irrelevant as to whether or not you completed those social boxes in the Yoast settings. This controls how the page looks when it's shared on Facebook and Twitter. So if you want to have a specific title and description and image when this particular post is shared, then you can control that by using the data here. So we'll focus on the SEO first. Now, is there a main focus keyword for this post? Well, you should always have a main keyword in mind when creating a post or a page, and if you put it in here, this will then allow Yoast to look at the content on your page and decide whether or not there are areas for improvements. So I don't tend to worry about that because I know what I'm going to optimize the page for. Then you get the snippet preview. This is what it might look like in a Google search result. So if you want to change these, we want to go to edit. Now these will have usually the purple bubbles of the default settings, so we want to remove those and we want to put in our own title. So I would start off with your main keyword up front, and then a reason for somebody to click, a description of what the post is about, and then here is the meta description. And so you want to start off with the main keyword, or at least keep the keyword in the meta description in some place. Now this is, or these two really, are what's going to sell the click. Click-through rate is important. The more people that click through to your page and stay on the page and interact and engage, the better. So you want to be selling the click, as it were. One way to find a good example of what is working for your particular keyword is to Google your keyword and see what comes up in the ads, the Google ads at the top and the bottom of the page. And you'll see what titles they're using and what descriptions they're using. And people usually spend lots of money on Google ads, and they tend to optimize the ad copy, so you can piggyback on that and you can adapt what's working for them into your meta description and title. So that's a quick tip on how to use Google ads to optimize your title and meta description. So remember, two things need to go in here: your keyword, and you want to sell the click. So if it needs to be clickbaity, so be it. Just make sure that you are able to get somebody to attract that click. So once you've put those in, that's all you need to worry about there. So you then need to look at the social, and here you get two boxes. You get your Facebook box and you get your Twitter box. And so remember, this is what your page or post will look like when it's shared on Facebook or Twitter. So this is where you put in the title and the description that you want to accompany the image, which you put here. So all I do most of the time is I just use the same information that I've put here in here. I've copied and pasted the title and the description from my SEO, and then I've chosen an image from my media library, or I've uploaded an image if I want a specific one for Facebook. And the same for Twitter. I just copy and paste what I've used in my Facebook, the title and description, and then I will either choose a different image or I will use the same image. In a perfect world, you're going to size the image, ideally for the site that you're sharing it on. So these are the recommended sizes for an image that's being shared on Twitter, and as you can see, the Facebook one is a different set of images. But to be honest, if I don't have time, I don't overly worry about that. I'd rather that the image that was displayed was something that was relevant to the post and not just a random image that's been pulled out of the page or the website. So once I've done my SEO and social settings, then I just make sure that I update the page, and that's it. So that's pretty much all you need to know about using Yoast to optimize your website. So you want to set it up properly in the first place to make sure that you're not indexing pages that are kind of bloat, and you want to make sure that you optimize each individual page using the Yoast SEO box at the bottom, your titles and your description. One last thing is this permalink here. This is what's known as a slug, and you probably remember seeing that when we were down here in the edit snippet. You can change the slug. Well, I like to do that up here in the beginning, and so what normally happens by default is that the title that you put for your post or your page ends up here. So this would be /home-schooling-UK blah blah blah. Well, that's a really long title for my URL, and so Google prefers short URLs, so I've shortened it to law because this is what I want this page to be about, the law around homeschooling. So I've just shortened it to that, so I've got a nice short URL. So you can change what the default is just by clicking the edit button and adding your main keyword in here, which is what I usually recommend, the main keywords for the page, and then click OK. And then remember to update the page, and you're good to go, and that will automatically change the slug down here at the bottom, so you don't need to worry about it. If you find that when you look at this you've got some strange concoction of dates and authors and various other odd things, then you want to change that, and you can change that by going to your settings on the left hand menu, going into your permalinks, and you might find that it's set to day and name, and you'll end up with a post that looks like that. Well, that's not overly good for ranking unless you might be a news site, for example, but if you're a general local business or a blog or something, you'd be better off using something more SEO friendly, in which case just select post name and then click Save Changes, and then what that will do is that all of the posts will have the post title as the default. So as I showed you before, you can just shorten that to something more closely related to your keyword. Just bear in mind that if your blog or your site has been up for a long time and you change the post or the URL structure, you're going to find that you might get some errors on your site, so you're going to need to be prepared to redirect those old URLs to the new URLs, otherwise you'll end up with 404 page not found errors. So you might want to take some advice with an SEO if you've got an established blog that's performing like this before you go ahead and change it. So I hope you found that useful. I'm Simon Kensington-Fellows, and this has been a video about the Yoast settings for WordPress.